I'm Mychal. I'm a sommelier, tarot card reader, and former ballerina.
Hi, I'm Suzanne. I am a writer, an author, and now a podcaster. And I am a budding astrocartographer.
Which is appropriate for this episode of All the Woo, A to Z, Astrology, Astrocartography.
There you go.
There's a lot of addendums to that, yes.
We have a lot of numbers and semicolons. And yeah.
Yes.
So, what is this deliciousness that we're drinking?
So we are having our Domaine Leflaive Macon Verze. It's a 2022. And what kind of wine would you guess that is, Suzanne, just by me telling you those words?
Fancy?
Okay, yes. Beyond that, no, you don't. The only reason why I'm putting you on the spot, and I'm sorry that I'm putting you on the spot, his favorite wine? No. Although I love, that's my dad joke, my wine dad joke. It's Leflaive. But I'm sure they probably love that if they're here.
Damn Americans.
The reason why I'm bringing it up is because for some wines, they're not quite as clear cut on what they are, meaning that as Americans, more specifically, I think a lot of Americans get used to looking at wine and it's saying Chardonnay, Cabernet, Merlot, whatever, and being like, okay, yeah, I know what kind of wine that is.
Sort of like we have 8 colors in the color box, and those are the ones that we can remember.
Sort of, yes. But...
And the French have 64.
Well... Yes, but they're all
284, whatever the giant box was.
The huge ones.
Yeah, 180. Was it 180?
I don't even remember. Something like that sounds about right. But the reason why I bring it up is because, the way that they're looking at it in France, which you might guess that this wine is a French wine, is that they're looking at it from a completely different perspective. They think that, or the way that they're looking at it is, we're telling you where it's from.
Mm-hmm.
And then by there, you should know what it is based upon where it's from, because they have very specific rules about where you can grow what.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can tell you that as somebody who works with wine, I will know from the name of where it is and all of that this is a Chardonnay, that's a French Chardonnay from the Burgundy area. And that more specifically, that this one has some nice minerality, has some nice floral components to it. However, the reason why the correlation with the astrology...
The object lesson of the lesson?
...is that oftentimes there's jargon, terminology, names, and things like that that mean something to people who work with it regularly that is complete babble to somebody who doesn't work with it regularly, which is why it can be so important to work with somebody who is a professional who will immediately be able to basically interpret what is in front of you.
Y'all, she actually takes tests on all of this. Like, where are these grapes found? And what does that ground offer to the wine?
Yeah. Like, what are special weather things that you should know about this particular area that happens that changes how it tastes? And what are winemaking practices from this particular area that change it, make it different from other places? Like, there's all kinds of things that can be involved in it.
A sommelier job is really good for a Virgo. I mean, just endless information that you can perfect.
Exactly. Gives me constantly something to work on. Always.
So, gentle listener, we are asking you to join us at the table.
Yes.
Full of non-judgment and fancy French wine that I can't pronounce. For this conversation. And we just want you to know that this is a safe space. And we are happy to have you here with us. And do not take anything that I am about to say as a budding baby, just barely started astrocartographer as law.
Yes.
This is really just my first attempt at a reading.
Well, that, and then also the point of it to share with you all, as well, is to kind of unveil this kind of astrology so that you understand what it is and what you can use it for, and just to give you a little bit more insight. So.
Well, let's get started then. So astrocartography is oftentimes called location astrology because it is looking at the effect of a specific location and its energies and the transits that are there. Y'all, Mychal's trying to make me laugh.
I'm not trying to. It's just...
She's got one of our little stuffed animal creatures.
Yes.
It's the alien one, and she's sort of having a private conversation with it.
I'm not talking to it. It's just, it's participating in what's going on. And it has pigtails.
I'm not sure whether we keep this or cut this. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah.
So so when anybody is born, or an idea is born, or in the case of the podcast was created, that specific moment has its own energetic signature. Mm-hmm. And that translates into basically a sort of starburst that stretches all across the globe. And so each person has their own places where your sun has the most energy, which is your vitality in life, and oftentimes your purpose mm-hmm. and your great love. Or it could be your Venus line, which is, a good place for meeting people who are going to, be your people.
Yeah.
Mars is a great place to get things done, but it's also a place to, if you wanted to start a revolution, probably, also a possibility. Mm-hmm. But it all depends on what these different planets are doing in your actual birth chart. So the energy that's there is just sort of transmuted over the planet. And so the way that my instructor, who's, an astrocartographer professionally, teaches it is it's kind of like there's all these different versions of yourself living on all of these different lines. So there is, the yourself that is on the Saturn line and is super, super disciplined and, very stringent. And there's, the version of you that's on the Jupiter line, which is overindulgent and, having a great time, that kind of thing. But that the most active spot is just like on your birth chart are the 4 lines, the AC, the IC, the DC, the MC, mm-hmm. which is, for those of y'all who don't know, if you take a circle and you cut it into quarters, that's basically
4-piece pie.
Yeah. So the line that goes from, if you're just looking down on it, left to right, and the line that goes from top to bottom.
So as Suzanne had mentioned, if you're on your Saturn line, I currently live on my Saturn line, everyone. I can give you some firsthand experience of what it's like to live there. I did not move here knowing that. Had I have known that, if I would have had any other choices, I might have chosen differently.
I'm not saying that I'm a lesson in Mychal's life, but,
no,
maybe Saturn isn't wrong.
But one thing that somebody told me about living on the Saturn line that can be a bonus, because it is the planet that is about discipline, right, and being regimented in what it is that you do, and it's a lot of learning. It's a learning place, which sounds like not such a great visit brochure, but but the highlight for it could be that you will see success. It's just that to see it takes a little bit longer. So where you might feel or see success based on your efforts more quickly in other places, mm-hmm. here it's delayed, mm-hmm. but you still get that reward on the back end if you continue to be diligent and move forward in that direction. So I'm here's to reaping rewards of years and years of work, Suzanne.
Cheers.
Cheers.
And that's funny because my sun is conjunct Saturn. Mm-hmm. So I feel like Saturn energy is just my norm.
Yeah, it's on my ascendant. It's it's right there.
It's right there.
It's right there. It's a super dominant in my chart. So I guess it's the one place that has drawn me in multiple times intentionally.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, but remember, or maybe we haven't gotten to that episode yet. I don't know, but you were super excited about to be born.
Yeah, no, I think we did that. Yeah. We've done that one. Okay. Mm-hmm. I don't know how super excited I was about moving here.
Fair point. Fair point.
I mean, outside of excluding present company.
Yes.
Let's just put it that way.
And
Yes.
she's not talking about her little alien with pigtails.
No.
So in all of this, the thing that really made me fall in love with astrocartography is just, in my experience, I've lived a lot of places, I've traveled a lot of places, and because my father was in the military and I was just going along because I was the dependent, there's a tendency, and I've seen other military kids mention this, to think, my life was my dad's. Like I didn't have any choice, or my mom's, whoever's serving.
Your parental figure.
Yeah. So, I just kind of did what I could where I was, but none of it was my choice. I did not have agency. And one of the really fascinating things about this was when I first saw my astrocartography chart, and I was born in the United States, and then followed my lines to the places that I lived, especially as a child, the lines were there. Like at my birth, the places that I would go, the places as I got older that I would fall in love with, the places that I would fall in love at, all of them are in my chart from birth. And I remember looking at the chart and just weeping because it was like, it's all been there. Like there were no mistakes, even places that were hard to be, even places, like
in the middle of the ocean.
The middle of the ocean has worked for me. But, my fascination with mermaids, when you see the amount of water and the frankly obsessed amount of lines in the Gulf of Mexico, it's like, that series makes so much sense.
Yes.
But those kinds of things is to just that sense of I'm seen and I'm known and I'm loved. And to me, that is the essence of woo. That it is the very personal, very loving world, universe, God, fill in whatever blank you want, but that our lives are created with intention, and that it was from the moment of my birth that those places were. And I think one of the crazy ones that you and I have talked about multiple times is how we both have lines in Egypt.
Yes, we do. We both have lines there. We do. The interesting part for me, looking back on it, looking at my chart that way, where I've moved as an adult, where I've chosen to be in my life as an adult, I do have lines there. Like that, where we are currently, even when I lived up in Chicago, that's another good place for me and around there. But where I grew up as a child, I have no lines there. The closest place that is nearby or lines that are nearby are ones that are not recommended for me. And even at that, I'm not super close to them, but when I've spent some time in those areas, I've actually gotten really sick while I was there. So I'm like, okay, I guess that kind of like makes sense. But it also makes sense why I have such a hard time staying there, even though I love it there because it's my home. Like that's where I grew up and where I know everybody and all. It's my cheers of the world.
As soon as you said that, I started singing the song in my head.
You guys get the gist. But basically, what I'm saying is that even though I love it there, for some reason, life has still always kind of taken me away from there. And so I don't know if that has to do with just where I can get the most done in other places as being like the thing, since I wasn't born where I grew up. And that's, if you want to know, like that's one of the reasons why I don't have any lines there, is because I was not born where I grew up. So if I grew up where I was born, I would have a lot of lines there.
And so there's a couple of different ways that you can look at astrocartography. And one of them is what I'm talking about with the natal chart, where you see all the lines. The other one is a relocated chart, where you actually take sort of the starburst shape that your specific, unique
self
natal chart has, and you transpose it to wherever you are. And if you've been a place for a while and you really, you're there, it's your home, then you get a chance to kind of reorient to how that space works for you. And so it can change where the lines are for you.
Yes.
So perhaps I need to back up just a little bit and talk about when I say the lines. So when you look at your natal chart, it makes a picture, and I'm calling that a starburst because lines, if you extend them from where they are in the written chart, then they can go on forever or around the world, as the case may be. And so that starburst, that is the natal chart, is what I'm referring to.
Okay.
And so if you take that little starburst and you put it in where you live, like, your corner of Elm in Maine or something, and then extend those lines just into the area around you, then you can look at and go, you know what? This coffee shop is where my Jupiter line would be. Maybe this is where I'm going to go and meet the person who's going to become my business partner. Or,
that's where you want to go work from your home office, is at that coffee shop.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So when you and I have done this looking at our chart, so Podsy, as y'all know, has their own chart.
Yes.
And then we did, of course, all of this because it was like, where, for the sake of Podsy, do we need to go?
Yeah, right.
And travel.
Yeah. Really only looking after Podsy's own good.
Because, Podsy doesn't have a body, so we have to do the traveling.
We become responsible. Yeah.
And what we learned, and this was very convenient because it's true in mine and Michael's chart, is that New Mexico sort of Taos area.
Yeah.
Would be a really sweet spot for all three of us.
The place.
So if anybody has a house in Taos that you feel like you could lease to a couple of Virgos and Podsy's a Sagittarius, then, please let us know.
Yeah. Yeah, please.
But yeah, so that is astrocartography, is all about what your astrology chart can show you about where you can live and work and meet the right kind of people for what you're looking for, where you can figure out how to really go and deeply relax, kind of where you need to avoid in some cases.
Yes.
Depending on, how you feel about your luggage getting lost, things like that. So I find it endlessly fascinating, but I'm going to close it here.
Yeah, I feel like if we open up any more doors, it might just be a whole other 10
hours.
Yeah, 10 episodes that we have to tack on just to explain. But what you need to know is that it can help you find out what locations would be good for you, where you're going, what you're trying to accomplish, what locations would be the most beneficial for whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish. And then highly recommend that you have it read to you by a professional astrologer who does that, because they can really give you all the insights, because what you would think first off is maybe not necessarily the most accurate. It's not, one size fits all.
Venus isn't going to give you love if you don't have a well aspected Venus.
Correct, right? So there might be other places that are better for you. So getting it, read to you by a professional is really important. But if you were curious and wanted to know what it visually looks like, I think that you can look it up on Astro Cafe or something like that.
Astro.com.
Yeah.
Various ones. Yes. And what I'm specifically trying to do is figure out how to help writers find the spot that they need to go to be able to write their book quicker.
Yes. Where do we decide my book needs to be written? Probably Taos.
I think it was either Taos or Geneva or something like that.
Well, no, because my Mercury line runs through New Orleans. So New Orleans.
And I have like 5 lines that run through New Orleans. So I'm just sort of a cat on a hot tin roof.
But you love it there.
Am I a Saturn? Am I a Neptune? Am I a this? But very contradictory selves.
Yes.
All at once. So I am Mardi Gras personified. Give me all the things. I want none of the things. Give me all the...
Yeah, where I mean, not a big mystery here, but if I go to New Orleans, I'm like, I want to visit all the voodoo shops and any other kind of metaphysical shop and see what they have, see if I can find anything different. Definitely going to get a reading by somebody when I'm there.
It's very true.
This is like, sure, we can go out to eat, but quite honestly, I feel like in New Orleans, it's hard to eat at a place that's not good.
This is true.
Yeah. So, just eat a lot while you're there. Enjoy, walk around. Yes, all the things.
So as we have said, this is going to be some on the road episode at some point in the future.
I was going to say, I'm not trying to sell New Orleans to people. I don't know that it needs to be sold.
Between Taylor Swift and the Super Bowl and Mardi Gras? No,
I think the things. I think they're doing okay. I could be wrong. But anyway. So what is the next season that we are doing, Suzanne?
Actually, we still have episode 4 of Astrology, which is medical astrology.
Oh, yeah, that's right. All right. Okay.
Or we will be coming to you of another way that your astrology chart can help you understand yourself more.
And help your life.
Thanks for joining us.
Next time on All the Woo.
A to Z.